A Taste of Contemporary China on Baghramyan Avenue. Article by Maria Gunko. Published on April 30th, 2026 on Yerevan Reports Lifestyle Magazine, SALT. On the corner of Baghramyan Avenue, just across from the American University of Armenia, there is a small glass box of a shop. Glass walls on 3 sides, so you can see everything and everyone inside. Its signature color is the unmistakable turquoise associated with Tiffany & Co., which carries its own cultural weight, linked to global shorthand for a certain kind of elegance and desirability. And of course, to Audrey Hepburn eating a pastry in front of a window at 5 in the morning. The shop is called Cha Art. It serves boba tea. It was opened by a young Chinese woman named Lisa, who arrived in Yerevan last summer, liked it, and decided to stay. Armenia is branded to the outside world as the land of the first Christian nation, with medieval monasteries in dramatic mountain light. As historian Razmik Panosyan argued, this image has dominated Armenian nation-building narratives with a persistence that leaves little room for anything else. While the image is undeniably true, it is not the whole picture. What this framing offers the outsider is a country frozen in its past, with little room for what Armenia and its capital actually are in the present. Yerevan is bustling and young, its terraces are full until late at night, its galleries showcase contemporary art, its wine bars pour fine natural wines from local vineyards, and its startup scene draws professionals from across the region. It is this gap between image and reality that Lisa encountered when visiting Armenia for the first time. Before coming here, I had imagined a very religious place. What I found was different. Lisa arrived in June 2025, when the streets were full of people. She came back in July. By August, she had called her niece. By February 2026, they opened Chart, 90% from China. Lisa's background is not in hospitality. She spent several years as a retail director for a luxury company, which perhaps explains her instinct for branding and the decision to have the shop itself legible and attractive from the outside. But her stated ambition for Cha Art is something more personal than just a retail concept. She wanted it to feel, in her words, like a living room for my friends. This is why Lisa chose a corner near the university rather than a spot on busier Saryan or Pushkin streets. She was not optimizing for foot traffic, but looking for the right atmosphere. The menu follows the same logic as the location. It is not designed for everyone who passes by, but for those willing to come a little further. Its principle lies in the negotiation between what is authentic and what can be understood. The line between what can be local and what cannot is drawn with care. 90% of ingredients are imported from China. Most importantly, the teas, the precise varieties that give each drink its character. Milk and fresh fruit come from Armenian producers, not only because it is logistically cheaper, but also because this is better for the economy of the host community. There are already boba tea shops in Yerevan that have done well, but they have adapted significantly to local taste. Lisa made the opposite choice, a decision she describes as deliberate and not without risk. People had warned her that Armenians were conservative in their tastes, that coffee was the safer bet, that the unusual would not find its audience. But her answer was clear. I wanted to show the real Chinese way, to let them taste contemporary China. Bridging and branding. What Lisa has developed in practice is something more interesting than simply holding firm on authenticity. Her methodology of introduction is careful, patient, and frankly said, quite elegant. Cream cheese cloud tea, for instance, is not obviously appealing to someone who has never encountered it. The word cheese does the damage before the product has a chance. Cha Art's solution was to introduce a coffee section with a French coffee topped by a cream cheese cloud. We ask if they tried our French latte. If so, then we encourage them to go for the tea. The cream cheese topping is the same thing in both. The route to an unfamiliar territory runs through familiar ground. So it was with sweet red bean, a topping with no precedent in Armenian culinary experience. It arrived on the menu first as a filling for matcha waffles, framed as a Japanese dessert. When customers tried the waffle and understood that this was not lobi, but something genuinely sweet, Lisa could move one step ahead, suggesting that red bean could also be added to tea. Slowly, the unfamiliar found its devotees. This is not a compromise. It is sequencing. The product does not change. The path to it is what gets carefully curated. Lisa's previous career in luxury retail surfaces most clearly when she talks about what she is actually trying to do in Yerevan. Boba tea in that framework sounds almost like a pretext. I have an idea to do some branding here, but not for a brand. For China. She is aware that the image of China held by many, not only in Armenia but worldwide, is only partial, shaped by political news and old associations. She wants to introduce something else, the contemporary, the technological, the cosmopolitan. She speaks of Shenzhen as the city that represents this version of China best. 40 years ago, it was a fishing village. Today, it is a city of 20 million, home to Huawei, Tencent, and DJI, where all public transport runs on electricity and technology is woven into the texture of daily life at every level. On Chinese cuisine, she recommends starting with the food of Eastern China, milder and more accessible, a better first entry point than the intensity of the inland western provinces. This is, if you listen carefully, the same methodology she applies to the Chayart menu. Start with what can be received, build the bridge, then go further. Chayart, in this reading, is less a cafe and more a pilot project, the first installment in a longer program of cultural introduction. Lisa notes that many young Armenians are studying Chinese, curious about what China actually is. I want them to explore, to expand their horizon, just like I did when coming to Armenia. The gap between the branded Armenia and the lived Armenia is no surprise to anyone who lives here, but it tends not to get named, or at least not named in quite this way. Much more bustling, much younger than I thought. Lisa arrived without the weight of diasporic longing or the obligation of heritage, without political investment in any particular version of the country. She arrived as someone who had just left a job she did not want to keep and was looking for somewhere with a good vibe and kind people. She found it in Yerevan, and then opened a place that offers others not just beverages, but the same small surprise, that things are rarely what you assume them to be.